Thursday morning, the 12th day of June 2025. It's about 10:30 a.m. Some of my viewers are very worried about very minor time stuff and things like that. I wish I could have time to do one for grammar. I'd love to explain grammar with Val's Pictorial Weekly and how to spell and all of that. I really will have to get out of that. Do you know that the entire English language was all fixed up by two Yankees right over in Victorian times to decide what words was what? And in my humble opinion, they made a complete hames of it. There is no language anything like as stupid as the way the English language is framed, and particularly not so much how it's spoken, how it is written and how it is spelled. It's nuts. I don't care where it come from. Time enough to fix it. Anyway, riots all over. Right, we'll get on to the sad part first. Last night in Ballymena, rioters attacked houses. They attacked houses with any semblance of foreign occupation. Balamina is a hot point between the interface between what is the British Unionist Protestant population of Northern Ireland, who, it has to be said, were planted in there 350 years ago, and should teach us a lesson about plantations, and the Roman Catholic, mostly that nationalist type communities. Now, it is a big mistake for anyone outside of Ireland to believe that all Catholics are nationalist, anti-British, and all British are all unionist in Northern Ireland. I can tell you, I know several people of the Protestant tradition who are as much aghast or sickened at what's going on as I am. The whole idea of the Good Friday Agreement was that we'd settle a little. Let's cool it a wee bit down. And the benefits that the Good Friday Agreement brought in the cooling effect is palpable. I mean, it's so obviously there. It's such an absolutely good thing. I've always given credit to everybody who was involved. I knew John Hume personally. I escorted him, and we used to. Funny thing about An Garda Síochána, when northern politicians came down, no matter whether they were unionist, attending maybe an Orange Walk or some ceremony, they might be going to a wedding. I knew a lot of them. I knew Harry Weston, I knew all that. They'd often just sit into the patrol car. They felt the Garda car was for their transport. It didn't matter what religion they were, what side they were on. And really, we weren't supposed to bring people in the Garda car. There was a very strict rule of who you brought. You could bring an injured person to hospital. You could. And you could bring a prisoner. But you couldn't bring someone and you could bring them to point out the scene of a crime. If a person witnessed a crime, you could put them in the back and they could show you. I remember that from the Garda regulations. But I remember bringing John Hume. It was funny, they was just sitting, James Molyneux, just sitting in the back, and that was it. I think it was an Austin Allegro we had at the time. I don't know what it was it that or what, I can't remember. A Toyota maybe, I don't know, but anyway. And, yeah, they would. So I knew some of them very well. I knew some of them very, very well. And that's all right, and I know a lot of people there. But between the jigs and the reels, eventually, with a huge struggle, that Good Friday Agreement was sorted out and done. And I repeat again, the benefits are just so palpable. It's such a blueprint for how to bring peace to a seemingly unsettleable situation. Anyway, we should learn from it. That's my point. If this is what happens by mass migration, whether it's forced in or what, that's what happens, and you have to acknowledge that. Now, what I claim is that an invasion can be of various sorts. The Viking invasion was by brute force, and then when they got in, then they settled down and they married some of the women and all this sort of thing. And a big portion of the population of the native Dublins are Vikings. The Vikings are the founders of Kiev in, in Ukraine. And in Iceland, they call the Irish Papa, because apparently 37% of the population of Iceland have Irish DNA. Some of them, actually, you can nearly see it in them, I'd nearly suggest, in their faces. So that's all right. So the point is made, we're not reproducing. I would suggest that every possible block to reproduction of native peoples is being implemented by the European Union and by the Irish government and by the British government. And I'm still at a great loss to understand how a democratic system, which it may have flaws, there may be the occasional extra few votes thrown into the box, but it basically works and it's basically fair enough. How can it produce governments that hate its people? I think it's a bit of money they get paid off or something. How can it do that? But it doesn't always work for them. So that in many parts of Europe, in Britain, the United States and Ireland, more so the United States, not so much Ireland, the people push back through the ballot box. And when they push back, it's an ugly, ugly scene. Now, the Good Friday Agreement and the Stormont Assembly is not strictly democratic. It doesn't just let the majority rule the whole thing. That's the way they came up with dealing with it. And it sort of works. It's kind of proof that pure democracy is not a good idea either. But the thing about it is the houses of Filipino nurses were attacked. Romanians that are there for 10 years were attacked. One family that has settled there for 10 years in Ballymena from Romania, and their daughter is attending school and are settled in, were attacked, and the people who did it went in, broke in the door and set fire to their kitchen. I have that on good tape. I agree it's from the internet, but I saw the pictures, they're not manufactured. And I know Ballymena and I believe it. All I can say to the people of Ballymena and to these people, if you're one of those people attacked, do not go. It's one instance where I'd back the government to get those houses renovated. Some people are posting big notices on the door, we're Filipino. The real target, probably, now I say this with a small p, probably is the recent migrants who are being horsed in. No assessment as to who they are. And last week, 2 boys who needed a Romanian interpreter to do their court case were accused of sexual assault on a girl and attempted rape. The ethos of some people coming here by direct provision is totally at odds with our own ethos. In Ballymena, all sides of the political divide and none accept that girls should be allowed to walk around. In the Republic of Ireland, they can walk around. You go to Birmingham, go to London, they can walk around. That's slowly being eroded because the expression of women and the freedom of women to walk around in whatever way they like, provided they have some clothing, is beyond the restraint of some nationalities, and they attack them for sexual gratification. And this is what sparked the riot. So I hope I'm making it clear. These migrants should not be coming in to Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland or anywhere else. 2 county councillors, Clifford Kelly in Kingscourt and Paddy MacDonald in Ballyborough, he'd be Sinn Féin, Clifford would be Fianna Fáil, admitted this time last year that they asked the minister who these people were and he refused to tell them. I mean, if De Valera had known this had happened, he'd have put it in the Constitution. And we urgently need a constitutional referendum on migration. And that should state that the state controls migration, nobody else. There's nothing in any of the treaties except what was agreed by our cowardly governments to allow what's happening. There's pushback all over the world. In Salford, which is near Manchester, isn't it? I think it is. They're always picking me up and stuff. One of the big problems I have no internet here. The man is delayed and he's coming. But in Salford, there was riots last night. There's riots in Britain. There's riots in London. And it's always the far right. The far right. Every psychological weapon used. Why has nobody come out and labelled me far right? Because they know if some politician in the Dáil or some senator comes out and says Val Martin is far right, I'll demand a debate and a right to reply. And if they put that in the paper, there is rules where you're entitled to a right of reply. And a policy for me is to shut off all the oxygen of publicity from me. Because they are dimwits that's doing this. So then, over in America, I did accept with Paddy Mickey that I criticised Donald Trump a little bit and he wants a big deal about Elon Musk. Elon Musk came in to help like anybody else. He was there for a while. He should get on now and resurrect his businesses. I see that the Irish state, the Minister for Energy, has said we'll never reach our targets for electric vehicles. Eamon Ryan set the target for 2030 at 945,000. They're now adjusted that down to 600,000. And my opinion is you might have 2,000 of them. You might have 2 or 3. You might have 100,000 electric vehicles. Everyone will buy one to start, but they won't keep them because they're a nightmare to operate on. And I asked the question, does anyone know any member of Chop the Dála, any TD or any senator that's driving an electric car and does not have a diesel or a petrol car? So over in America, Trump did make the mistake. He should have had his military ready. To me, the ICE, that's the immigration crowd, enforcement, they'd be the last to go in. I'd have everything ready. And I'd have snatch squads, and I'd have cameras, and I'd have everything. But of course, the problem in California is the courts, because when they go to deport them, the courts may act. Now, I would suggest the thing to do would be get them out to a state like North Dakota, somewhere where there's a strong judge. Whip them out and bring them to North Dakota, or put them across the border. I don't know if that's possible, but I'd lump them out anyway. You can see the way I'm coming from. The point is, we have a breakdown of law and order all over the world. You have a shortage of police because police will not work in this crazy environment. A country without borders is not a country. An invasion does not have to be by means of arms. Why does most Western countries like the UK have MI5, MI6 and intelligence services to spot spies from China and Russia? Because you can come in as an invader by means other than under force of arms. You can get information and you can pass it back. So if you can come in by those two methods, force, military force, spying, then coming in as a migrant is also invasion. Now, whether you'd manage to argue that in a court or not, I don't know. But the government has a right to has a duty to prevent invasion. So anyway, it's going to be a long, hot summer. And people say to me about the Irish getting abused by the guards. That's a load of horse manure. I'm available to debate. In 1981, a group of Sinn Féin, IRA, mix-up of people tried to burn the British Embassy in Dublin, which was subject to the Vienna Convention, isn't it? to subject to diplomatic immunity, and they got on well with that, and they decided to come back. Now, I unfortunately didn't get whacking any of them, but I tried to whack them anywhere I could and would have no doubt about it. They decided they were going to descend on the city of Dublin with pickaxe and cudgels and billhooks, and they were going to show the Irish government and the Irish Garda that they were going to force their will on them and on the elected government. And the Garda Síochána, that time, you had to be 5'9" to become a member. And they wanted to elect me because I was 5'10.5". And some of them were big burly men, some of them weren't academic. I was one of the few that was sort of academic, had a knowledge of the law, and still was fairly tough and fairly big. Like I could match with the best in a row. And so the very idea that we should have sat back and let them skull all around them and burn Dublin is bullshit. Bullshit. No way. But the government stood behind us. And so in Los Angeles, the place is up in flames. Coming in with Venezuelan flags, demanding that Venezuela run California. They're not demanding that they're not carrying US flags and saying, I'm from Venezuela, I support the US. No, they want Mexican law. They want to take back California and New Mexico from the United States. And the lefties are out bleeding hearts for them. It's time the thing swung. Luckily, the American people voted for Trump. I think they've settled up with Musk. It doesn't matter what Musk does. Tom Homan is there. He's supported by Trump, and that's what they need. And that's sending out the example to our balubas here in Europe. So this is all part of a strange phenomenon. It's a kind of communism. It's a kind of globalism. But whatever ism it is, it's not for the good of the people, and it denies personal freedom and freedom of speech as first thing up. There are people in Los Angeles now, it's very hard to prove this because I'm 10,000 miles away, but there are people in Los Angeles who claim they were given $150 to go out and protest. And one fellow says he took the money, he went down to protest, and then when he saw them burning cars and looting and pulling all the stuff that can get in stores out, he backed off and went home. What has looting shops and looting businesses to do with migration? Nothing. The people who support the migrants here are no better. You're just looters. Your IRA and your old Sinn Féin baloney, you're just looters. That's all you are. And you would be very far, it wouldn't take much to get you looting again. The left-wing crowd are leaving blocks and bricks on the street and canisters of petrol for the rioters to pick up. All arranged and all sorted. They always get a supply of bricks. And that could happen. In fact, there was riots in Dublin where bricks were used, but it could be innocent from buildings. So that's my view. Your law and order is breaking down. It's the job of the citizen to vote for parties that will enforce law and order. You have to have borders. I am totally in sympathy and aggrieved, is that the right word? That nice little Filipino people who come here to look after us, look after our elderly people in homes and all, and are very quiet and easygoing, and I speak to some of them. If you have been targeted like this, then here is an Irish farmer with cows, very, very sorry about it. I have a funny suspicion that even the Balamina thugs, and some of them are thugs, do not want that to happen. I don't think they want that to happen. I'd say this is a crowd of bios, maybe full of drink, let loose. Because they were shouting foreigners, get out. But the North is a very hotbed of, and then they call it racism. Well, it is racism. I mean, the whole troubles is over racism. But it's a big mistake to attach right, left, and centre to the political spectrum, which I say is round. The Icelanders are Icelandic. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. The Koreans are Koreans. Take it or leave it. The Irish used to be the Irish. We march on Patrick's Day and we eat spuds. And England had its traditions. And there was French and Spanish and German. And we've seen the worst of that. Now they want to mix the whole lot up into one. And this is all part of it. It is possible to stop the migrants coming in. I can do it. You stop them. How does the United States place custom officials at Dublin airports? They're down in Shannon. If you're going to America, you're checked in Shannon. You're not checked in New York. Why? Because if you don't pass in Shannon, you don't get on the plane. Quite simple. It's not rocket science. Again, folks, it's the 12th of June 2025. I have to think very carefully. I have no backup computer because I have no internet here until the people get around to it. Air is under serious pressure. Hopefully now you'll comment underneath, and that's my opinion, and I hold that opinion very strong, and I'm not changing it for any lefty. We see now what the politicians of all hue and cry. They're all for this. They come out to, oh, we must stick together. That is a baloney statement. That's what Matt Carthy said. Stick what together? We must stick together. Huh? Stick what together? Is there anyone in Carrick that voted Sinn Féin that is now sorry to did it? If they are, will you please comment underneath and be honest about it? We'll see you back for something else. Bye. Thank you.